They called me just the baggage handler and laughed while I was standing right there, holding their luggage, wearing my reflective vest like some kind of target. And what they didn't know, what none of those passengers rushing through that terminal knew, was that in less than 10 minutes, the entire airport was going to shut down, and I would be the one who made that call. I'm 41 years old, been working at O'Hare International Airport in Chicago for 17 years, started as a baggage loader when I was 24 and worked my way up, and I have the kind of body that comes from lifting heavy things every day. Medium height, strong build, dark brown hair cut short and usually a little messy by the end of a shift. I keep a short beard because shaving every morning isn't worth the trouble. My skin's tanned from years of working outdoors on the tarmac, and my eyes, people say they look tired, and they're right because this job wears you down, but they're also always watching, always paying attention, because in this line of work, one mistake can cost lives. That morning started like any other. I arrived at 4:30 a.m., put on my dark work pants, my standard issue shirt, clipped on my ID badge, and strapped on my reflective safety vest, the bright yellow one that makes you visible on the runway but somehow makes you invisible everywhere else. And I headed down to the baggage claim area to coordinate the morning cruise, because what most passengers don't know is that I'm not just a baggage handler anymore. I'm a ground operations supervisor, which means I oversee safety protocols, equipment checks, and emergency procedures for the entire terminal. But when you're wearing a vest and carrying luggage, people just see what they want to see. Around 7 a.m., the terminal was packed. Holiday travel season, flights delayed because of weather in Atlanta, passengers frustrated and taking it out on anyone in a uniform. And I was near Carousel 5 helping redirect bags from a delayed flight when a group of business people approached me, 3 men and a woman, all in expensive suits, dragging designer luggage, and one of them, a guy in his 50s with perfectly styled gray hair, snapped his fingers at me and said, "Hey, you, baggage guy, we need these tagged for flight 2847. And I looked at him and said calmly, "Sir, this is baggage claim. You need to go back to check-in on the upper level." And he rolled his eyes and said, "Can't you just do it here? Isn't that your job?" I explained again, still calm, still professional, that I couldn't process check-in luggage at baggage claim, that there were specific counters upstairs designed for that. And the woman in their group laughed, actually laughed, and said to her colleagues, "Of course he can't help, he's just the baggage handler, probably doesn't even understand how the system works." And the other men chuckled, and one of them said, "Exactly, these people just move bags around, they don't actually know anything." And I stood there, holding a radio in one hand, a clipboard in the other, and I felt that familiar burn of being dismissed, being treated like I was stupid, like the 17 years I'd spent learning every inch of this airport, every protocol, every emergency procedure meant nothing because I was wearing a reflective vest. I've lifted thousands of bags. I've worked through blizzards and heat waves. I've stayed overnight when flights got canceled and passengers needed help. I've coordinated emergency landings. I've reported safety hazards that could have caused disasters. And I've done it all quietly, professionally, without expecting recognition, because that's the job. But standing there, listening to those people mock me, hearing them laugh like I was some kind of joke, something inside me went cold. Not angry, just cold, because I realized they had no idea who they were talking to, no idea what I was responsible for, and they were about to find out. About 15 minutes later, I was doing a routine check of the conveyor systems in the back area, the place passengers never see, where bags move through scanners and sorting machines, and I noticed something that made my blood run cold. One of the main conveyor belts was showing signs of a mechanical failure, the kind that could jam the entire system. And worse, there was a smell, faint but unmistakable, burning rubber and hot metal, which meant the motor was overheating. And if that belt failed while bags were moving through, it could cause a fire. It could shut down the entire baggage system. It could put lives at risk. I immediately radioed my supervisor, explained the situation, and within seconds I had authorization to initiate emergency shutdown protocol, which means stopping all baggage operations in Terminal 3, rerouting flights, alerting TSA and fire safety teams, and clearing the area of all non-essential personnel. and I started moving fast, coordinating with my team over the radio, directing people to evacuate the baggage sorting area, making sure every crew member was accounted for. And within 5 minutes, alarms started going off, red lights flashing, and announcements echoing through the terminal. Attention, all passengers and staff. Terminal 3 baggage operations have been temporarily suspended. Please follow instructions from airport personnel. The terminal erupted into chaos. Passengers yelling, demanding to know what was happening, flight attendants trying to calm people down, and I was in the middle of it, directing traffic, making sure people stayed away from the restricted areas, coordinating with fire crews who arrived to inspect the motor. And that's when I saw them again. The same group of business people who had mocked me earlier, standing near the check-in counters looking panicked because their flight was now delayed indefinitely. And one of them, the woman, saw me and actually had the nerve to approach me and say, "What's going on? Why is everything shut down? Do you know anything?" I looked at her, kept my voice calm, professional, and said, "Yes, ma'am, I'm the one who shut it down." And her expression shifted from irritation to confusion, and she said, "You? But you're just—" And I cut her off, said, "I'm the ground operations supervisor for this terminal. I identified a critical safety hazard and initiated emergency protocol to prevent a potential fire and system failure. So yes, I shut it down because that's my job." And I watched her face go pale, watched the recognition dawn, and she stammered, "I didn't know, I'm sorry, I thought—" And I said, "You thought I was just the baggage handler." The fire crew cleared the area about 40 minutes later, confirmed the motor was overheating and would have failed within the hour, told me I'd likely prevented a major incident, and the terminal slowly started returning to normal. Flights rerouted, bags processed through backup systems, passengers rebooked. And throughout all of it, I kept working, kept coordinating, kept doing my job. And every now and then, I'd see one of those business people looking at me, and they'd quickly look away, embarrassed, ashamed. And I didn't feel satisfaction, I didn't feel vindicated, I just felt tired, because this happens all the time. People see the vest and the uniform and they assume I'm nobody. They assume I don't matter. Later that afternoon, my supervisor pulled me aside, thanked me for catching the issue, told me I'd handled the situation perfectly, and said the airport director wanted to commend me formally. And I appreciated it, but honestly, I didn't need the recognition. What I needed was for people to understand that every person working in this airport, from the pilots to the janitors to the baggage handlers, is here for a reason. We all have roles, we all have responsibilities, and just because you can't see our authority doesn't mean it doesn't exist, and the people you ignore, the people you mock, might be the ones keeping you safe. I'm still a ground operations supervisor. I still wear the same vest, still carry the same radio, still coordinate baggage crews and monitor safety systems, and most passengers still walk right past me without a second glance, still see me as just another airport worker. And that's fine. I don't need their validation, I don't need their respect, but I do need them to understand something. The next time you're rushing through an airport, frustrated because your flight is delayed, annoyed because you have to wait, remember that there are people behind the scenes, people you'll never see, people's names you'll never know, who are working to keep you safe, to keep the system running. And sometimes the person holding your bag is also the person who just prevented a disaster. So maybe, just maybe, treat them with a little respect.